I think from the fundamentals going into 24, I am relatively optimistic.
BusinessJournalDaily.com. 3 Minutes With is brought to you by Farmers National Bank.
Who's the only local bank with a mobile mortgage app? Farmers. Download the app to contact your lender, calculate payments, securely scan and upload documents, and check the status of your loan. Fiercely local, fiercely loyal, Farmers.
It's consumed us for many, many months where people have been calling for a recession for what it seems like 18 months and it has not appeared. I think most forecasters underestimate the strength of the US consumer. If we look at the consumer, represents 70% of GDP, the consumer is in a great spot. Obviously there are headwinds with higher interest rates, inflation, but my thesis is as long as jobs are plentiful, and I truly do believe one of the main conversations that should be taking place is why business owners across the board cannot find labor, right? We have a labor shortage. So under that premise, I do believe with jobs aplenty that the consumer will keep powering the economy forward into 24 and beyond. It's very dangerous to say this time is different. I think we've all been burned with those 4 words before. But there is something fundamentally which has changed. It was the pandemic, the response to the pandemic. I think the amount of money that has flooded the system, it's been underappreciated. So one of the stats that I've just recently uncovered is the net worth of consumers from 2019 to 2022 is up nearly 40%. So going into this Fed increase with the consumer wealth that has been created the 3 years prior, I think there's more of a buffer right now than many people had expected or which existed in historical times. One of the positives that I've also seen is going into this Fed rate hiking cycle, we had rock bottom interest rates. Many companies used that opportunity to refinance, lock in rates, and kick out debt well into the future. So historically, when the Fed raised rates, companies would have an interest expense bill which went up, and then they'd have to adjust their labor force and things would sort of contract from there. But going into this one, with rates sort of prefacing the rate increase of rock bottom rates, that has created, I guess, less of the ability for the Fed's transmission mechanism to directly impact the economy. So I think that's one of the positive signs as well, as corporate America and the level of defaults that we've seen are not where you would have expected, sort of from an academic standpoint going into this. Government debt and the quantum of debt at the same time that the traditional buyers of our debt, namely foreign central governments, the Fed themselves, commercial banks, all of the demand seems to be waning at the same time that government debt is being issued at record paces. That is a worry. I think it's more of a long-term worry. In the short term, I would still think it's a positive from a fiscal stimulus standpoint, but it is a longer-term worry. And then I would also point into that commercial banks and just the financial sector. So right now, banks look to be in a very solid spot. I've always uncovered and seen that if we enter into a recession, if the financial system is healthy, then even if we get a recession, they've traditionally been shallow. So a healthy financial system is something we should all be made aware of and sort of keen to observe, because that will bode that any recession that we get, potentially, will be a shallow one. I'm optimistic. I know it's tough to be sometimes when we get the headwinds and, we didn't even mention any of the geopolitical stuff, and some of it is incredibly sad. But I think from the fundamentals going into 24, I am relatively optimistic.
BusinessJournalDaily.com. 3 Minutes With is brought to you by Farmers National Bank.
Who's the only local bank with a mobile mortgage app? Farmers. Download the app to contact your lender, calculate payments, securely scan and upload documents, and check the status of your loan. Fiercely local, fiercely loyal, Farmers.